This video is going to be about why anyone should consider doing a master's. The reason why it's taken a while is because my own master's was going really hectically. Like, I know it's like a 1-year intensive thing, but oof, it's been intense. And then secondly, my hair looked like rubbish and I just didn't want to be on video, and then I did it myself. So one of the obvious reasons to do a master's is obviously because it has a direct benefit to your career, right? That you are eligible for more jobs, you like level up in terms of like the pool that you're competing with, obviously because fewer people have PhDs than have undergrads or that have grade 12 certificates. However, certain things only apply to certain careers. So for instance, in engineering, and I am 100% generalizing. So, you know, if you're like, no, I'm in engineering and my master's has changed my life, come through and just, I don't know, throw it in the comments, and then like if someone else reads the comments, they can be like, oh cool, okay, civil engineering needs a master's, whatever. But based on what I've been told from my very good friends, some masters in engineering are not as valuable, and for that reason a lot of engineers opt to do a master's in project management or business MBA afterwards, because that's sort of the career that you elevate into as a engineer in Namibia. But also considering that Namibia is not a manufacturing country, like we don't produce a lot, Namibian engineers do a lot of maintenance. This is not shade. I don't even know if I'm not even 100% sure if that's a bad thing. I mean, it feels like a bad thing. Like, obviously you want to be creating things as opposed to maintaining things that are already created, but you know, they go into managing operations and projects, and hence why a lot of them do project management and MBAs, something like that. As I was going through the footage, it sort of feels like I am 100% hating on engineering masters, and I'm really not. If anything, I think it's just that it's the ones that I have a lot of friends in for some reason, or the ones that my friends have spoken the most about, maybe. I don't know, but yeah, just that. I'm sorry. As well, what I have heard is that for engineers, it's possibly sometimes more valuable to do a specific short course on a specific piece of equipment, so that would make you valuable like on site or whatever. A master's would also obviously be it would make you more attractive for certain careers like architecture. Masters would be like one of the requirements to make you eligible to write the professional exams. So to be a practicing licensed architect, you would have to have a master's. So that's one of the reasons to consider it if you're in a field like that. Similar to the architecture thing, certain industries like academia do want people to be leveling up academically. So masters, PhD, postdoc, what. So I'd say that if you want to be in academia, you should probably also do a master's and a PhD, maybe. Yes, do it. Please do it. A field that I don't know enough about is actually the social sciences, and it seems to me that a lot of like practicing, let me say clinically practicing social scientists, so like psychologists and whatnot, have masters. I don't know if it's a prerequisite for the board and stuff, but I think couple of them have master's degrees. And then in stuff like history or like archiving and stuff like that, you know, I don't know. So yeah, I will try and reach out to some people about how useful it is. But then at the same time, if you're watching this video and you're within those fields, do talk. You know, sustainable development has a lot of masters, but people that are targeting jobs at the UN. The other thing is to set yourself apart. Also, like, so this would be that you're becoming more of a specialist in certain things. Like if you did your molecular Spanish, which is obviously not a career, but then, you know, if it came to a point when Namibia was doing molecular deals with Spain, you would be first in line.
chose orthopedic surgery, pediatric, and neurosurgery.
Obviously, if you don't really know the direction you're going into, maybe it's useful to do a more general master's, or maybe it's just useful to not do a master's at all until you know. An unfortunate thing is that a lot of people do their masters just because they have the time to do so, right? And this obviously speaks to our unemployment crisis, that there's just nothing to do once you like finish school. Like there's just no jobs, so like some people just go do a master's. And I guess it's unfortunate in the sense that you may end up doing a master's that you didn't really want to do. And in the better days when NSFAF actually funded postgrads, then you know it's fully covered as well, so like why stress? I personally feel like in science it's sort of a no-brainer. Like if you wanna, I mean obviously depending on what you want to do with your science, but if you're trying to do like research vibes, but maybe that's gatekeeping. Come to think of it, that might be gatekeeping, because not everyone has the access to do a PhD. Like PhDs, at least locally, require funding. They require like a supervisor that's willing to commit to you for 4 to 5 years, ideally 2 to 3, but you know, yeah, so maybe that's sort of gatekeeping. But it does seem to have been sold to me anyways as a sort of no-brainer to do a PhD in science if you're trying to go research wise. But then like for other fields it's obviously not necessary. Someone told me that like in their class, in their honors class, it was just like also sort of like, hey, we're all gonna be in masters next year, right? So then she just went into masters. Yeah, it was just expected. And this was economics. There are nice things in life in which your employer pays for your masters. So this would be, and I only say this in case like you don't know it, like just in case. Just in case. Yeah, sometimes you work for a company that is serious about capacity building or just staff development in general, and like, you know, leveling up its own people. And for that reason, they have funds allocated for their employees to go into their masters. Obviously, contractual obligations, that's always cool, because then often what would happen is that you will do your masters in something that is directly relevant to your work, and then it's almost tied to like a promotion. Maybe this is hypothetical, but it in a setup that makes sense as far as I'm concerned, it is tied to a promotion. So you are at this level, exit for 1 or 2 years, go do your masters, come back, get promoted to the next level. Because the reason the company was willing to fund your masters in the first place is because they are training / grooming you for that level, and then like you just needed the qualification because because HR and stuff like that, and just because like, you know, you needed the actual knowledge. The other nice thing about waiting to do your masters, like not falling into it right after your degree and just because you're bored or whatever, is that as you grow and as you do more things professionally, you learn the type of things, or you figure out the type of things that you actually want to do with your life. So for instance, you could be in civil engineering, I'm using my friend as an example, and then you can decide, actually I want to do a master's in transport studies, or I want to do a master's in computer science. These are actually 2 friends. What is wrong with civil engineering? I'm joking. Yeah, and you know, figuring out that, you know, within computer science, for instance, you want to specialize specifically in informatics, or in data science, or in machine learning, or in database management. Like similarly would be the fact that we just didn't know about a lot of fields. I didn't know about ecology when we were in school, and now I know people that came from computer science, but are doing like masters or PhDs actually that are like within the ecology space, or people doing this human computer interaction stuff. Like it's just like, it's nice and broad. Oh, the other thing is obviously like fields like accounting, where the master's is only relevant if you're going into academia, right? Because otherwise you would just do your certifications, work at an audit firm for 3 years and whatever, and then from that you're sorted. So the only reason you would actually do a master's in accounting is if you're going in academia. And I think the same applies to actuarial science, for instance. I don't know any of my actuarial science, no accounting friends that plan to do masters. So sometimes then people from those fields will end up doing a master's in like finance or equity, investments, something like that, something that is along the field of finance, depending on, I guess, on what field they are, but not exactly, you know, pure actuarial science or pure accounting. I didn't know, for instance, that in education that you could do a master's in health professionals education, and it obviously makes you consider whether it's necessary to specialize to that point. Like, what's the difference between health professionals education and like engineering professionals education? Does that exist? Is that a thing? Obviously, you can decide for yourself whether you want to be a generalist or a specialist. In some fields as well, masters and other postgrads are also used for networking. Like, it is the course content, but it's also like very much about the networks that you would build, and obviously that stuff plays into where you decide to do your masters. Like, the other thing is, like, knowledge is nice, you know. You could obviously just like read a lot of books and like YouTube, and like you could even read the textbook that they're going to be teaching in that chapter, and you can watch you know, the lecturers' speeches and their talks and whatnot, and I'm sure you can grasp a lot of what was going to be taught there anyways. So, you know, yeah. So I hope that was sort of informative. I hope that it goes a little bit of the way into helping you make a decision as to whether you want to do a master's or not.